Lucy Powell, can I get clear about one thing? Am I interviewing the next Deputy Prime Minister this morning?
You're interviewing the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, Trevor. I was elected Deputy Leader directly by members of the Labour Party 10 months ago. It's a job I will still have tomorrow, next week, hopefully in a year or two's time as well. So I've got the job security that I'm really happy with, thank you.
Yeah, but, you know, you could be double jobbing. And let me put it this way. Are we expected genuinely to believe that you have no idea if you're going to have a job in the cabinet?
Well, look, I mean, we'll wait to see all of that tomorrow. I think Andy's been really clear that he's going to appoint his cabinet tomorrow, probably afternoon, once he becomes Prime Minister. And that's absolutely right. You know, he's not Prime Minister yet. And you don't start appointing a government and a cabinet until you're actually Prime Minister. But I've been really clear that my job as the directly elected Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, the mandate that I was given, the manifesto, if you like, that I stood on, I promised Labour Party members that I would be their voice at the top of the Labour Party in government as well, across the government. And I would make sure that I would advocate for them and the communities that the Labour Party is there to serve. So I will continue to do that in whatever way is most effective, but I will continue to be the Deputy Leader. And I think what we've seen in the last 2 or 3 weeks now through this leadership campaign is Andy setting out his stall for how he will be Prime Minister. And then he appoints a government that helps him deliver that.
All right, well, look, let's come to that. I mean, you know, cynics would say, gosh, she does know, but she's not telling him. But I believe everything. It's reported that Andy Burnham wants to cancel the proposal for digital IDs and repurpose the money. Is that true?
Yes, his team have put that out overnight, to be clear about that. He wants to refocus and reprioritise the government's resources, the government's attention onto his priorities of tackling the cost of living, really rewiring the way the country and the economy work so that people have more agency over their lives and also can get some breathing space and really bear down on the cost of living. So this is an example of refocusing and reprioritising and the change that he will bring.
Well, it's a pretty small step, isn't it? I mean, the OBR, when this was put forward by the Starmer administration, said that it would cost £1.8 billion over 2 years to bring in this system. In fact, the previous government said, oh, it wouldn't cost anything like that. So you're not even saving, £2 billion, which isn't going to make a dent on the black hole you've got, for example, on the defence budget of £5 billion, and it won't do anything on cost of living. I mean, it's pretty small beer, isn't it?
Well, I don't think there's any suggestion that this is the only thing. I think, look, the digital ID card scheme, which actually wasn't in our manifesto, was very controversial when it was announced a year ago by the then Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and it does take a lot of attention and resource of government away from those priorities. That I think what Andy's been clear about. This is a chance to refresh, to renew, to reset the government, to have make sure that we've got a clearer sense of those key priorities and everyone's working towards those rather than being distracted by a myriad of differing policies that do take attention and resources away.
Yeah, but I suppose I'm asking you about scale, and this is what's got the Chancellor, whoever that is, I'm assuming it's not you, is it? Pause for you. OK, fine, you're not going to tell me that. It's going to be one for the Chancellor. And I suppose the question here is, does the next Prime Minister understand the scale of the problem that he faces? Because if this is, if you like, a first big announcement, it really doesn't feel like it meets the scale of the challenge that he himself has set out, which is to fix the last 40 years?
Well, he has set out, I think, a really ambitious and bold vision about how he wants to rewire the country. You know, he understands what it feels like for ordinary people right round the country who feel they have little agency over their lives, little agency over the cost of living and the bills they have to pay and keep going up and up, and the fact that living standards have fallen. And he set out what I think is a very bold and ambitious plan about redistributing power, but also about taking more control over those essentials in life, so that they're not just being run in the interests of shareholders and private interests, but that they can be run in the interests of ordinary people.
We do understand scale of the nature of the problem, I beg your pardon, and you've just given the description again. But this first signal of what you're going to do as a government, my point is it seems rather small against that description. I mean, let me just take up.
There's no one magic bullet here, Trevor. There's no one thing that we can do that would magically redress all of that and change that. This is a project and a mission over time, reorienting the focus and the priority of the Labour government on the foundations that have been laid over the last 2 years on the basis of our 2024 manifesto, but refocusing and reprioritising the government to these bigger, bolder outcomes and missions, and that is something that we will aim to deliver, and Andy's government, I'm sure, will want to deliver over time, and there'll be many, many things about that and underneath that.
Well, let's take a just very concrete example. You mentioned the essentials of life. I mean, there's nothing more essential than water. Are you going to nationalise Thames Water?
Well, look, let's see. There's lots of speculation around. I mean, this has been an ongoing issue and concern in government and around for many months now. The government has powers to bring a distressed water company under special measures, let's see if the government wants to use those powers. We also have actually promised to bring forward a new piece of legislation around water reform as well. So there's real opportunity there to look at how we can ensure we've got a sustainable water system in this country. Because let's be honest, I think this is something that we can all see. The privatisation of water hasn't worked. It's not created competition. What we've seen is bills going up and up and up over years and years and years, investment not being made into the infrastructure of water.
So you're open
and then
to...
now these companies are in real distress.
So you're open to reversal of that privatisation at a bill knocking on what, $2 billion a year?
Look, there are many different
Thames Water alone.
Ways there are many different ways of doing this. And different models available, but the government actually has the powers already. That's been a long-standing powers as a backstop, I think that's where people feel these deep sense of unfairness sometimes. It's the taxpayer and the state that is usually the backstop and the last line of defence, if you like, that has to pick up the pieces when the private company isn't successful. So the profits are taken into the private hands, and all the insurance, if you like, and all the costs are borne ultimately by the state and the taxpayer. And that's not right, and that's not sustainable, and it's not led to what we wanted it to, what we needed it to lead to, which was a good water system in this country that wasn't polluting rivers and seas, that had invested in its sewer system and its water supply with costs that consumers could afford.
You've gone through that before. Let me just ask you a wider question based on what Mr. Burnham said on Friday. He said that his election as Labour leader, and he called it "This Change Today," is the most significant change moment in our politics for 40 years. Really? More significant than the fall of Margaret Thatcher, election of Tony Blair, 2000 financial crisis, the decision to leave the EU. I mean, isn't it a bit hyperbolic, a bit overstated?
Well, look, they're Andy's words. I think what he's talking about there is an agenda, a willingness to really take head on some of these, the orthodoxy about the way in which the country and the economy has been run. And some of those orthodoxies have been there for 40 years. You know, a hoarding of an over-centralised power. An over-centralised power in Whitehall.
I understand
much more centralised than any other country, equivalent country.
The question is whether, in what he has said, what we know, and we don't know very much about what he wants to do, but what he has said, the question is, does he really understand what he's getting himself into? Or is this, you know, as you would say in Manchester, a bit all mouth and trousers?
We're definitely not all mouth and no trousers here. But look, I think Andy absolutely knows what he's getting himself into. He's been a senior elected politician in this country for 25 years. He's seen it from both ends. He's seen it from a national government end. Okay. He's seen it from a city region end and trying to get things done. He's been incredibly successful in doing that in the last 10 years here in Greater Manchester, and his record speaks for itself.
All right.
I can assure you that he's absolutely ready for the challenge that he faces. He doesn't underestimate that challenge by any means at all, but I think what people have been crying out for is someone showing a direction, a hopeful new direction to a different kind of country that works in the interests of ordinary working people again, and not in the interests of the vested interest or private interest all the time. And that is the agenda that he's set out. And I think it's a one that everyone can get behind.
To get to that point, he's got to deal, if you like, with the legacy of those who came before him. We've been talking to the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and I think you would accept, as pretty much everybody does, that you're going to have to deal with the consequences of Brexit, of the Johnson policies on migration, and also his stance on Ukraine. Johnson said to us that Burnham should call for NATO to admit Ukraine now and call Mr. Putin's bluff. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think, you know, Andy Burnham, like Keir Starmer before, and indeed Boris Johnson, you know, have been absolutely clear about this country's steadfast commitment to Ukraine. We stand alongside and shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine, and I think it's no coincidence, is it, that actually one of the last visits that Boris Johnson did as Prime Minister was to Ukraine, and one of the last visits that Keir Starmer did as Prime Minister was also to Ukraine. I am very, very confident, I know, that Andy wants to continue that strength of leadership, that partnership, and being absolutely clear of our commitment, our unwavering commitment and support of Ukraine in the war that they face.
Aside from Ukraine, Mr. Johnson also said something to us about MP safety, and he argues that it would be expensive and pointless to try to raise every MP's level of security. And instead, what we should try to do is dial down the temperature of politics, reduce the level of invective. You were leader of the House for quite some time. Do you think he's got a point here?
I absolutely, completely agree with that point, and actually said the same myself in the House last week in relation to Anne Widdecombe's brutal murder, that we can't sort of security weigh our way out of this by just putting bigger and bigger walls around members of Parliament and the way they go about their business. I don't want that. You know, a big part of my job, our job, is to be in touch, constant touch with our constituents and our communities, and we don't want to lock ourselves away from that. But we have to deal with the threat. And the threat comes from this increasingly polarised, increasingly personalised sometimes quite toxic debate in this country, which is absolutely amplified and made worse in many cases on social media and the way in which social media operates.
Right.
And we do need to dial that down. We need to disagree agreeably once again, if that is possible, and respect the fact that we do have differing views from each other, but we can do that respectfully.
Lucy Powell, thank you. And by the way, I'm just loving the birds behind you there that have been participating in our interview.
I know. I always get more comments about the birds in the garden than anything I say on these interviews, Trevor. You'll be pleased to know.
Not on our show. Thank you, Lucy Powell.
Thank you.